So good day to everyone. This is Rosalie J. Bajo and I will continue on Miss Amora's part of the report. So gather relevant information. Once you have identified your decision, it's time to gather the information relevant to the choice. Do an internal assessment, seeing where your organization has succeeded and failed in areas related to your decision. So gathering relevant information. So we should collect some pertinent information before we make our decision. Is our information is needed? What is the best sources of our information and how we will get it? So in this step, it involves the both internal and external work. So some of the information for internal is we will seek through a process of self-assessment. So when we say self-assessment, it's for us to be able to provide a good insight into true comprehension that could help to identify the gaps in one's knowledge. So example for this is through questionnaires, surveys, personal interviews, observations, and documentation reviews. So for the information for external, we can find it through online, books, from other people, and of course from other resources. So that is what we consider in gathering relevant information. So next is to identify the alternatives. With relevant information, now at your fingertips, identify possible solution to your problem. So identifying the alternatives, so when we collect an information, it will be probably identify those several possible paths of action or alternatives. You can also use our own imaginations and additional information to construct new alternatives. So in this step, you should list all the possible and desirable alternatives. So one of the example or good technique to identify those alternatives is what we call the brainstorming, because it combines the action and can generate more ideas that could provide good or new alternative that could match the goal and the objective of your information. So next is to weigh the evidence. So once we have identified or you identify the multiple alternatives, weigh the evidence for or against said alternatives. So once you are done in identifying those alternatives, we have this weigh the evidence. So this is to take all the different solutions you've come up and analyze how it would address your initial problem. So using those information that you've gathered and identified the alternatives, you should weigh your option. So weigh the pros and cons to speed up your decision-making process and improve the understanding of the situation. So when we say pros and cons, this is the arguments for and against. So this will help you to identify those alternatives and achieve the best outcome. So in weighing the evidence, we should always consider or think about the opportunities, the risk, and the people to get the best alternatives. So that is for weighing an evidence or weigh an evidence. Next is to choose the alternatives. So here is the part of the decision-making process where you make the decision. So now you are done in weigh all your evidences. You are now ready to select the alternative that seem to be the best one for you. So this is where you choose. This is a step where you choose an alternative that you think that could fit the best on your decision-making process for you to be able to meet the desirable outcome on your decision-making. Next, for choose the alternative, you should take an action, of course. Once you've made your decision, you should act on it develop a plan to make your decision tangible and achievable. So on this step, you are now ready to take some positive action by beginning to implement your chosen alternative. Kay dili man ka pwede na mag-choose lang og alternative na dili nimo siya i-act or himuon in action. So you should take an action in making a decision para kuha nimo ang gusto nimo nga outcome sa imuhang decision. So you should take an action on it. So the last step is to review your decision. So after a predetermined amount of time which you defined in step 1 of the decision making process, take an honest look back at your decision. So review your decision. So you should take back on those consequences because this is the final step in decision making. You should consider the result of your decision and evaluate whether or not it has resolved the needs you've identified. So if dili ka satisfied by the outcome, you might want to gather more detailed or somewhat different information or to explore more additional alternatives para masatisfy ka sa imuhang outcome nga gusto mahitabo for your decision making. So in decision making process is not an easy process. So there's a challenges in decision making. First is to information overload. Next is having enough information. Third is misidentifying the problem. So in information overload, this involves much information that could give a problem and in making decision. So too much information can cause difficulties in understanding. And tungod ana, naay mga information na dili na makater or worst walay mahimo na information or alternative kay tungod nalibog na or nag-struggle na sa kadaghan sa informations. So next is no information. So I think this is the most challenging in decision making process is lack of information. It can cause na maghimo-himo na lang kag own information kay tungod kulang kaayo ang imong resources for your decision making process. So mas okay pa siguro ang daghan kaayo ka og information kaysa sa wala jud kay information. So next is misidentifying the problem. So okay na imong mga resources na kuha na nimo tanan ang imong mga alternative but mali di ay ang imong problem. So it can cause na magbalik-balik jud ka sa sugod kay tungod dili tama ang imong solution sa imuhang problems. So next in challenges in decision making is overconfidence in the outcome, impulsiveness, opinions and objectivity, and not a one-off. So in overconfidence in the outcome, so this is a prone in making mistake in decision making because an individual who is making a decision think they are more smarter than anything. Is very biased and arrogant. So, it can cause of failure in making decisions because dili sila gadawat og advice or suggestions in other people. So, tungod ana, nay uban na ma-failed ang decision or mali ang solutions sa decisions. Next is the impulsiveness. So, this is where the risky decision enters. So, impulsive is a decision that one individual is wala naghuna-huna sa iyahang decision na ginahimo, even how risky it is. So, gahimo siya og decision na para lang masolve ang problem dayon. Yet, wala siya nag-think sa possible na long-term negative consequences na mahitabo sa iyang gihimo nga decision. Next is the opinions and objectivity. So, kani is bali we make a decision making that madala lang ta sa opinion sa uban ug sa ilahang gusto nga mahitabo. So, maong ma-challenge ta sa pag-decide ug usahay malibog ta sa atong decision kay tungod gaagad lang jud ta sa other people's opinion and their own decisions. So, wala kay imuhang baruganan sa imuhang decision, gaagad lang kasalain. So, kaning not a one-off is not repeated. So, balik ka isa lang ka makakumit sa decision kay humana ka og decide. So, dili na nimo siya mabalik if na-apply na nimo siya. So, wala na kay choice kay kung unsa ang imong na-decide, mauna jud to siya. So, that is one of the challenging in making decision process. So, I think I am done in my part of this report. I will give the floor to the next reporter. Thank you.